Artistry, it's Mercy, and this is your 2025 show hair and makeup tutorial. This is going to be a basic walkthrough and rundown of our show hair and makeup. So if you already feel pretty proficient in doing hair and makeup, you might want to just go ahead and skip through to the parts that you need, and I'll leave the timestamps right here for you to use. I also go into some tips and techniques that I personally use that help me to keep my show hair and makeup staying and lasting all day and throughout my performance. So if you would like to watch for those tips, you can also do that. Otherwise, I'm just gonna hop right in. So first step is primer. It's a good idea to always start with primer when doing show makeup, because otherwise any sort of sweat or oil from performing or warm up will kind of mix in with the foundation and probably make it slide off a lot quicker. Next step is to use foundation. Please use foundation. This will help all of your makeup stay on and help your face look a lot brighter. You're going to want something that says matte or natural finish. Definitely don't want to get something that says dewy or lightweight, just because that, whenever mixed with your oil and sweat from performing, will slide off your face, and then you'll realize at the end of the show that you don't have foundation on anymore. Having a strong foundation of your primer and then your foundation being something that's a little bit thicker will help all of the makeup that you layer on top stay a lot nicer throughout the performance. Next up is concealer. This part is optional. I like to use it underneath my eyes, especially when I have to get up super early. I know that my eye bags can be a little crazy, and then of course sometimes I have acne, and so I will use concealer just to spot and cover anything up. Next up is blush, bronzer, and highlight. You're going to want to make your blush and bronzer a little bit darker than you would if you were wearing it out and about. This is so that your judges can see your facial expressions a lot clearer. I just finished my blush. I went from here all the way back, that way you can see the entirety of my cheekbones, and now I'm going to use some bronzer just to warm up my face. I'm going to go right underneath my cheekbones and then across my forehead and probably a little bit underneath my jaw. You can see now that my face has been a lot more defined now that I've added the blush and bronzer, which is why that's such an important step. Next is to go in with a little bit of highlighter. You can also use just like a shimmery eyeshadow shade. I like to just go right up top of my nose, the corner of my eyes, and then I like to dab it across the top of my cheekbone. Next, I'm going to quickly do my eyebrows. I would suggest not skipping this step. A lot of people don't usually fill in their eyebrows, but I think that especially once you put foundation on, a lot of times it kind of washes out your eyebrows, and especially when you're performing, you're going to want the judges to see your eyebrows so they can see what kind of facial expressions you're using. Next, what I like to do is set it all with powder. I go in the areas where I get the most oily. Alright, so I have completed my base makeup. Now the next step is going to be the eyes. So the eye look is going to be just a simple smoky brown. The best way to do this, in my opinion, and there's lots of ways to do this, is to just pick 3 shades of brown, a lighter, a medium, and a darker, and then you're just going to layer them up on top of each other, and I'll show you how. So I have my lightest shade of brown, and I'm going to put that all in the crease of my eye. It's best to have foundation or some sort of primer underneath your eyeshadow, that way it stays on. If it's just your normal skin without anything, the eyeshadow will be more likely to slide off and not stay put. Now I'm just doing the same thing on the other eye. The important thing to note is that I'm bringing it almost all the way up to my eyebrow. I'm going to stop right before my eyebrow and then blend it out so that it looks nice and seamless. You don't want it to be like a sharp line underneath your eyebrow, and then I also wouldn't take it into your eyebrow. Okay, so first shade is done. Now I'm going to take my second darkest shade, and then I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm just going to keep it a little bit lower. I'm not going to bring it as high. For this darker shade, you're going to want to keep it on the outer end of your eye. So for me, I'm taking it about halfway and keeping it here. I'm still blending it forward just slightly, but I'm mainly focusing it on the outer end. Alright, I'm going to go back in with the first shade I used, which is the lighter brown, and then I'm going to blend it all together to make sure that everything is seamless. Okay, next I'm going to go in with my darkest shade of brown. This should be something really, really dark. And then I'm going to use probably a little bit of a smaller brush than I did before. For reference, this is the first brush I used, which is kind of round, pretty fluffy. This one is going to be a lot less fluffy, just so that I can make sure that I keep it where I want it to and it doesn't go all over my eye, because this darkest shade, you're really going to want to keep it on as far out as possible. So I have my darkest shade, and then I'm going to lightly dab it on the outer end. Again, this is very dark. You're going to want to keep it as far out as possible. And here I am bringing it onto my lid just a little bit, but keeping it on this outer little triangle here. I'm going to use the brush that I first used and use this to blend it out and not bring it any further than the middle of my eye. I know it looks crazy, but this is one of those things where you just have to trust the process and it will look better, I promise. Since it's looking a little bit splotchy in some places, I'm going to go ahead and go back in and kind of fill in the areas where I feel like it's a little bit lighter. The key to make it not look super duper splotchy is to go back in with the first two shades that you use, so the medium and lighter shade, and to fill in those gaps. Now I'm going to repeat on the other eye. So next I'm going to go in with a clean fluffy brush, and I'm just going to blend along the edges to make sure that there's no harsh lines. Okay, next up I'm going to use a smaller flat brush, and I'm going to take a neutral light shade. So this can be probably your powder shade, or if you just have a white shade or something that's probably a little bit warmer, you're going to want to use that and just pack it into the front side of your lid. This will help your eye look be a little bit brighter, especially if you accidentally got any on your lid. I'm also going to carry this up a little bit to keep making the front of my eye look a little bit brighter. I'm going to use that same brush in my powder, and I'm going to use that to clean up the ends over here and blend it out. Again, we don't want any harsh lines, so you might need to go back and forth between that and your fluffy brush. If it got really out of hand when you were doing it, I would use concealer and use that to clean it up, and then take this brush and blend it out so there's not a sharp line. Okay, now I'm going to take the darkest shade and I'm going to bring it right underneath my waterline. I'm going to keep it as close as possible. This way I can continue the line from here to underneath my eye. I'm just blending the line out by going back and forth over it. Alright, so this is where I'm going to use the white eyeliner, or if you're a little bit darker skin, you might want to try, I know Clarissa sent this one and also a gold one. That's just so that we can brighten up the waterline a little bit. You don't want it to look too crazy or too bold. All of this is supposed to be very blended. So I'm just gently going over my waterline, and then I'm going to take my index finger and blend it out a little bit. Again, you don't want it to be a harsh line. Next step is to use eyeliner. I prefer the kind that's a little bit like a gel pen. I think that they're the easiest to use. And I'm just going to do a nice thin line across my eyelid here, and then a short wing. So the last step of the eye look is to do your lashes. Sammy specifically wanted us to wear false lashes. There are many options when it comes to lashes. You can use glue, some of them are magnetic, some of them, the eyeliner you use adheres to your lashes. So the lashes that Sammy wants are full but not crazy big. So anything that says like natural or wispy, anything like that, you're not gonna want like giant butterflies on your eyes is what he said. So I just got these. They're a little bit lighter, but they're still very full, and you'll still be able to tell that I have lashes on, but they're not going to be crazy over the top. So to put on lashes, the first step for me is to put on your mascara, and this will give a little bit extra for your false lashes to adhere to. Once you've trimmed your eyelashes, you're going to want to take your glue and put a very small amount on the top side of the lashes. You don't want to put it on the underside because then your lashes are going to lay flat versus up. After you put your glue on, you're going to want to let it sit for a little bit. This is so that it gets tacky. If you put it on right when it's wet, it won't stick on right. Alright, once it's gotten tacky, I'm going to start on the outer end of my eye. That's the way I prefer to do it. When I put this on, I'm going to go up and over and not this way because, again, you don't want your eyelashes to lay this way. You want it to lay up. Once I have it on, I'm going to gently use my index and thumb and press it up against my natural lashes. That way I get it as close to them as possible. If not, you might have like a bit of a gap between both, which is sometimes pretty noticeable, and this will also help it stay on a lot better. Then you're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. The last step that I'm going to do is take my mascara and add it to my lower lashes. So we're nearing the end of the makeup look. The next step is to do lipstick. This is going to be a nude lip, so take whatever color your lips are, try to find the closest shade. I like to use this brand, Maybelline, and I like their vinyl collection. This is a good one because it's not super matte, but it also doesn't have any sort of shine that your hair is going to stick into or that's going to come off super easily. This stuff will stay on through my entire performance. So I like to use a lip liner. This one is pretty close shade, probably a little bit darker. My lip liner is done, then I'm going to use my lipstick. So the last step of any show makeup look is going to be setting spray. This is going to be really important in keeping all of your makeup in place while you perform. Some people even use hairspray, but anything that says like 24-hour hold or super stay or strong holding is going to be your best friend in keeping all of the hard work you just did in place, especially for those days that we have 2 shows in a row. You're going to want to have as much hold in your makeup as possible. So industry, this is your final makeup look. Also know that there's other techniques to get the same makeup look. These are just the ones that I do, for me, yield the quickest results. Alright industry, so the next part of this video is going to be designated towards hair. There's going to be 3 different hairstyles. Each are going to be dependent and assigned based on the style top you have. Other than that, they're going to be pretty much all down. So you're going to want to either curl or straighten your hair. So that means you need to plan ahead, whether that means you're going to bring your straightener, your curler, or you're going to do heatless curls and keep them in overnight and during rehearsal. Just make sure whatever you plan to do that you practice and that you plan ahead. Or if you have naturally curly or wavy hair, you can style that naturally with gel and product just to make sure that looks nice. What we don't want is just bedhead. So whatever that means styling wise for you, just make sure that it's going to look good on you and that you plan ahead for that. So the first step of this hair look is to take either a comb with something pointy like this, or you can use your finger and just take a front section of your hair and part it out. So for me, I went about an inch or 2 into my hair and then I went down to my ear. I'm going to take the rest of my hair and pull it up and back so it's out of the way and just hold with a claw clip. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these front pieces of hair and just do a regular 3-strand braid. As I do this, I'm keeping it super loose as well. I'm not making it a super tight braid. When I get close to the end, I'm just going to clip it off like that and then do the other side. So I have both sides braided and clipped. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fluff out my braid a little bit so that it looks a little bit bigger than what it actually is. From here, I'm going to hairspray it. As it's drying, I'm going to fluff it out a little bit more. That way it holds. So the last step is I'm going to take this and pull it all the way around behind my ears and underneath my little ponytail. I'm taking the clips out and then grabbing a clear elastic, and I'm going to tie the 2 sections into a little ponytail. From there, I'm going to unclip my hair and lay it down. And now I have a cute little braided headband. For the second hairstyle, I'm going to take my comb and I'm going to take a small section at the front of my hair, making sort of like a triangle. And I'm going to take a clear elastic and tie it up. So notice this is a pretty small piece. I'm going to then make a little bit of a larger section, and I'm going to add the ponytail into that and then tie it off. From here, I'm going to use my fingers and take the ponytail and fluff it out a little bit. So notice how I made a pretty small bump here. I didn't make anything too big and crazy. Then I'm going to do the same thing one last time, taking a little bit of a larger section, then tie it off, and then I'm going to use my fingers and fluff it out a little bit to make a small bubble. Then I'm going to hairspray any flyaways down and then do the same thing on the other side. So I have my small section and then I tie it back. Then I'm going to make a little bit larger section. As I do these ponytails, I'm also making sure that they're in line with the other side. Once I've made my second ponytail, I'm going to use my fingers, fluff out a small bubble, and then make one last larger section behind the last one and make it into a bubble. The last step is to hairspray it down. And so that's the end of this hair look. You should end with 2 bubble braids on each side and 2 pigtails, and your hair should be curled or straight. For this last hairstyle, I'm going to start with the middle part again, and then I'm going to take my comb and section off a front section of my hair. You should start with a pretty small piece because we're going to do a rope French braid all the way down. So the way to do a French rope braid is I'm going to split my hair in half and then twist away, and then I'm going to lay the bottom section down, combine hair to it, take the top piece, combine some hair to it, and then twist them away from my face. And then I continue adding hair to the bottom and the top, then I twist away. And I'm going to keep doing that until I get about down to my ear. So I actually stopped right next to my eyebrow, and then from here I'm going to continue rope braiding down. And the way to do this without it untwisting is I'm going to take the individual hair pieces and twist them towards my face, and then I'm going to wrap them away from my face. So I twist them towards my face and then wrap them away. Once I get to the end, I'm going to tie it off. If you're like me and you have a lot of layers by your face, you're going to have a lot of flyaways like this. And so the best idea is to tuck them in and twist and then hairspray it down. Then I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Take my 2 strands, twist them away, add some hair to top and bottom, twist away from my face, add some to the top and bottom, and twist away from my face. Once I get about down to the end of my eyebrow, that's when I'm going to stop French twisting, and then I'm going to twist the individual strands towards my face and then cross them away. Once I hair tie it, I'm going to try and tuck away all my flyaways and then hairspray it down. So that's the end of this hair look. You should end with 2 symmetrical twisted braids like this, and if you did it correctly, they shouldn't untwist. So industry, that's the end of the hair and makeup tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or any of the other captains. I will also post more information underneath this with information about performance blacks and other things you'll need for the show. Have a good season!